You know, the thing that really separates combat sports like MMA and boxing from all other kinds of sports is the fact that in other sports, one fell move does not necessarily mean that the sporting event is over. Because you look at boxing, you look at MMA, you look at Olympic wrestling, you look at some of these other forms of grappling and jiu-jitsu, it really is sudden death. I mean, it's basically Super Smash Brothers. Everybody's got 100% damage. First guy to hit you with a hammer wins. And that's different from other sports because if you go and you watch an NFL game, if Tom Brady throws a touchdown, the game's not automatically over. I mean, the team has another chance to score. It goes on for another, 45 minutes. Same thing with baseball, hockey, soccer, all the sports. The first point on the board, striking first, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. I mean, it gives you an advantage for sure, but it's not, a dead giveaway. Well, in MMA, it's different because if you go in there and you get into a trading war and you get that really just perfectly, exquisitely fluky time shot off, you can drop a dude. And I think you go back to that Stipe Miocic Fabricio Verdum fight at UFC 198, where I'm convinced if you had that fight happen 100 times, 98 of the percent of those fights, Fabricio Verdum would have won. He's just a better fighter. It's the fact that he got caught up. He went off his game plan. He decided to trade with Stipe, and Stipe, he got a lucky shot in. It happens. Fluky things happen with physics. And when you go back and you watch the first Nate Diaz Conor McGregor fight from earlier this year, a couple of things jump out at me. Obviously, Conor McGregor in that fight went into it basically wanting to do a Conor McGregor fight. The same thing he did against Jose Aldo and all these other people, where he goes in there in the first round and his objective is to hit you 8,000 million billion times. And, if that doesn't, automatically kill you at some point, you're going to be so, beat up and gassed out by the time the second round rolls around that you can just be, dropped, taken down, and grounded out. So that was Conor McGregor's obvious strategy in the first fight against Nate Diaz. And for most of the fight, it worked. I think we all agree. You go back and watch that fight, and it is on for free on the YouTube channel for the UFC. You can go check it out. No plug, not at all. If you go back and you watch it, Conor clearly run the first round. I mean, there's no denying that. He really messed up Nate Diaz. Diaz was bleeding everywhere. I mean, that was easy 10-9 round for Conor, maybe even 10-8 if you're going to be very liberal about it. The problem is, as soon as the second round began, McGregor was gassed. I mean, he threw everything he had at Nate Diaz, and he couldn't finish the job, right? Nate Diaz, he's got a little bit better cardio, obviously a better ground wrestler, better submissions, obviously. And he went into this going as a 5-round fight. He wanted to pace himself. He knew he can take some damage early in the first, rebound in the second. Conor, on the other hand, he went in there with guns blazing. It's like, I'm going to finish this in the first round or early in the second round, and then if I blow up before then, I blow up before then. And we see what happened. McGregor goes in there, dominates the first round. Second round, dominates a little, slows down, gasses, puts his defenses down. Nate starts landing some good shots. And then the big thing at the end, with about a minute left, McGregor unwisely goes in for a takedown, doesn't protect himself, allows Nate Diaz to, at first, it looks like an anaconda choke, transitions out of that, gets his back, rear naked choke, fight over. And it's one of those things where, I don't know, if you have that fight happen 10 times, I don't think Nate Diaz wins all 10 times. I think it's one of those things where McGregor went in with a bad game plan. He took way too many chances. He didn't fight defensively enough. And just the way the first round went, I'm thinking to myself, and remember that was a short notice fight too. Remember that. We all forget that was like a last second replacement. And I watched that fight again recently. And I was thinking to myself, if Conor would have stuck to his game plan, if he would have paced himself, if he wouldn't try to go out and kill Nate Diaz in the first round, and he kept that pace going, and he played defensively, and he could stop the jab, and he really did everything he could to not be taken down, and kept us a standing fight, he probably would have beat Nate Diaz. I mean, he wouldn't have knocked him out in the first round, but he would have at least drug it out to like the third, fourth, fifth round for a late stoppage, or go in there and get a pretty easy unanimous decision. The thing is, McGregor, he doesn't fight like that, and that's a big, big problem. So heading into this rematch, coming up a couple of days now, what I think is going to be different, I think Nate Diaz is going into this one a little bit underprepared, and Conor McGregor is going in here a little bit overprepared. Obviously, Nate Diaz knows how he can beat Conor McGregor, and Conor McGregor knows how Nate Diaz can beat him. And obviously, we've heard all the stories about McGregor having like this new camp coming in and trying all this different stuff. And Nate Diaz, he's probably, smoking marijuana right now and eating Cheetos and hoping, that the stuff he bought online that'll mask all the leftover remnants of his drug use won't show up in the next test. And I think Diaz, he's going to go in there and say, I'm just going to go in and weather the storm like I did the first time. He's going to come out and hit me a million billion times. I'm just going to jab, keep my distance, wait for a takedown, then submit him. And Conor McGregor, obviously, he's got that PTSD from that first fight where he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go in there and be a little bit slower, throw him off his game plan, and kind of make it a more technical fight. Yeah, I know, a technical Conor McGregor fight. How's that sound? And I think if that happens, Nate Diaz, he's very unreliable as far as his striking. I mean, there are some fights, like in 2011, where you watch him go, and you're just like, man, this guy's like a dirty boxing champ. I mean, he's just a great, great jabber. And that really doesn't bode too well for Conor McGregor. But I also kind of think McGregor, if he goes in there and he can play defensively, if he can kind of, guard himself, if he can keep Nate Diaz at a distance, if he can close the gap and rattle a couple of shots off here and there and make it a war of attrition instead of a, retarded rooster fight, then I think Conor McGregor should win this fight. But of course, it all comes down to strategy. I mean, McGregor can go in there in the first round and completely abandon his game plan and just say, I'm going to fight you like we're on the streets of Dublin for potatoes, and then everything goes, into disarray. But just looking at what we have here, based on the first fight, going into the planning, just looking at how these fighters have been conducting themselves and looking at the results at their training camp, heading into this rematch, I got to give it to Conor McGregor. I think he's going to go in there, and like I said, he could always bend his game plan any minute, but I just think he's going to go in, he's going to play a lot smarter than he did the first fight, he's going to make it technical, he's going to go in there and out-jab Nate Diaz, he's going to keep his distance, he's going to try to close the gap, he's going to stay out of the middle of the ring. That's the one thing he does not want to do, don't make this out in the open. He's going to bully up Diaz against the cage, he's going to avoid making this a ground war, he's just going to wear him down, and I've got McGregor winning by 4th round TKO. So there's that. And as far as what McGregor's going to do after that, I think he'll drop back to 145. Playing 170 is way too dangerous. And he'll probably fight Jose Aldo in a rematch like around December. All right. Now we're going to take a look at the main card and then blow through the prelims. We got Anthony Johnson taking on Glover Teixeira. I'm going to go with Anthony Johnson in this one. I could go down the roll call and say, well, Anthony Johnson, he's getting 71% of knockouts compared to only 64% for Glover Teixeira. Nobody cares about that. I mean, you've seen these two guys fight. I mean, Glover, I don't know. You saw us fight against John Jones. You saw him get banged up. And you know what Anthony Johnson does? He goes in there, he gets up close, he punches you in the face very hard, and you fall over with brain damage. And Teixeira, he's just too slow for Johnson. And I just don't see Teixeira having the ability to make this a long-range fight. He's not going to keep his distance. He's going to get swarmed. Rumble's going to go in there. He's going to start unloading, and this one will be over. 1st round, TKO, Rumble. And that is if he can make weight. And we all know about Anthony Johnson and making weight. That does not happen ever. Rick Story taking on Donald Cerrone. Ooh, this should be a really, really good fight. This might be the fight of the night here. All right, looking at the stats here, 73-inch height advantage for Donald Cerrone, 73-inch to 71-inch reach advantage for Cerrone. Cerrone's landed more significant strikes per minute. Accuracy favors Cerrone. Strikes absorbed per minute favors Rick Story. Defense favors Rick Story. Grappling, all that's kind of leaning towards Rick Story. But the big variable here, of course, submission average 1.72 for Cerrone, 0.91 per fight for Rick Story. Yeah, I got Cerrone winning this one. I got him winning second round, submission, guillotine choke after just pounding the crap out of Rick for the first round. And hopefully this gets Cerrone back in title contention, because we would all love to see him take on Eddie Alvarez. That would just be hilarious in ways that words have not been invented to describe it yet. We got Hyun Yoy Lim taking on Mike Perry, and obviously Mike Perry is a new challenger from the world of Capcom. As you see there, he's all black. He's shadowy. What can I say about this guy? He's really, really mysterious, just walking out of the crowd like he's in the NWO or something. So yeah, we don't really know anything at all about Mike Perry's background. I know he's 6-0. I know that Hyun Yoy Lim is from South Korea, and he's 13-5-1, and he's landing 5.15 significant strikes per minute. Good Lord. 100% takedown accuracy. Well, I really can't make an educated guess on this because I don't know anything about Mike Perry, like, whatsoever. So, just throwing it up in the air. Seriously, don't take my word for it. Do not use this for betting or any sort of analysis whatsoever. I'm just going to go with Mike Perry because he's American. That's just what we do. South Korean guy. If he's not nicknamed Zombie, I don't care. All right, and opening up our main events, or main event, the main card portion of UFC 202, we've got Tim Means taking on Sean Strickland. And boy, this does not sound like a fight we should be having in the year 2016, but whatever. Just looking at the stats here, minor arm reach advantage for Strickland, minor leg reach advantage for Tim Means, pretty much average single strikes per minute, kind of a tilt there. Accuracy favors Tim Means, strikes word per minute, and general defense, kind of half and half. Takedown averages favors Strickland. Takedown accuracy favors Strickland. Takedown defense favors Strickland. Submission attempts favors Strickland. I'm going to go with Strickland, unanimous decision, because not every fight can be great. Alright, and I'm going to be super duper fast with the FS1 and the Facebook Fight Pass fights. Cody Garbrandt taking on Takaya Mizugaki. Well, it says here on the UFC main page that Takaya Mizugaki has no leg reach at all. He's actually 0 inches compared to 38 inches for Cody Garbrandt. So I didn't even know we actually had a fighter on the UFC roster who was an amputee. And it doesn't really seem all that fair. Got to go with Cody Garbrandt just for that. I mean, sorry. We all know that old aphorism about a one-legged man in a derriere kicking contest, and I don't know. Don't really see how Mizugaki wins this one. Oh, by the way, that's going to be a unanimous decision. It's going to be drawn out. We got Raquel Pennington taking on Elizabeth Phillips. I'm not really familiar with Elizabeth Phillips. I've seen a couple of Raquel Pennington fights. Unanimous decision, Elizabeth Phillips, because sometimes you just need an upset. We've got a guy named Artem Lobov taking on Chris Avila, and I know absolutely nothing about either of these guys. I do know that Artov is nicknamed the Russian Hammer. He's 12-12 and 1 with 1 no contest, and Chris Avila is 5-2. Like I said, the fact that I'm even mulling these fights is just completely absurd. I have no idea who these people are, no sort of analytical information about them whatsoever. If you actually do look at the UFC website, there is a photo of Chris Avila, and he looks like that guy in geometry class who would take upskirt photos of his classmates. He's just a really creepy looking guy. And you know me, I'm very jingoistic. I always pick the creepy American over the normal looking Russian dude any day of the week. I'm going to go with Avila. Late stoppage, 3rd round, TKO. Don't know why, just feeling it. Now we got Randa Marcos, who's nicknamed Quiet Storm, taking on Courtney Casey, whose nickname is Cast Iron. And this is crazy. Randa Marcos is actually from Iraq. So, and Courtney Casey is from the USA. So, just saying, there's a little bit of a bad blood there, historically. So Randa, she's 6-4. Courtney Casey is 5-3. Looking at the data here, slight height advantage for Casey. Pretty big reach advantage for Casey. Strikes landed per minute favors Casey. Accuracy favors Casey. But Casey, she is getting hit a lot. 5.9 strikes per minute per fight compared to 3.52 for Marcos. Defense favors Marcos. Takedown averages favors Marcos. Takedown accuracy, interestingly enough, favors Courtney Casey. She's never been taken down, apparently. No, wait, she's been taken down 50-50, so never mind that. She's been 100% successful on her takedowns, which is a huge variable we go for making decisions in these fights. Submissions, not really anything to talk about whatsoever there. So yeah, just looking at the 100% takedown accuracy, strikes landed per minute, and the fact that she is American, and we all know that being American automatically gets you at least like 2 points on the judge's scorecard. Gonna go with cast iron. I'm gonna take Casey to beat Randa Marcos. So hopefully this fight will be a whole lot more like the first Gulf War and not the second one, where it's really long and drawn out. And yeah, so Courtney Casey, second round stoppage. All right, almost there. We're doing fight past fights. We got Neil Magny taking on Lawrence Larkin. It's actually a really good matchup for it to be on Fight Pass. Yeah, it's a really good looking matchup. I'm gonna go with Neil Magny. I mean, he's a bad dude. I mean, he's landed 4.15 signal strides per minute. Takedown about 3 per fight. Really good takedown defense. Yeah, let's go with Neil Magny. Gonna go decision. Should be a pretty interesting little matchup. We got Colby Covington taking on Max Payne Griffin, because UFC fighters are subtle. Don't really know a whole lot about either of these guys, but I know Colby Covington is a 9-1 record. Max Griffin is 12-2. So yeah, once again, we're just kind of throwing it up in the air. Anybody can win this one. I'm gonna go with Max Griffin. You know why? Because I like his name better. Sometimes that's all you gotta do. Gotta be scientific, and that's also your decision. And opening our show, it's Brazil's Alberto Uda taking on Marvin Vettori. And Alberto Uda looks like a guy who has kidnapped at least one Uber passenger. I mean, he's a very scary looking man. And I don't know anything about Marvin Vettori, but I do know that Italians have really good food, and subsequently they have not won a major war since like the 1700s. And I'm not saying those two are interrelated, but if you've ever eaten like a really big bowl of spaghetti, afterwards, the last thing in the world you want to do is fight. You want to nap, you want to Netflix. And you know how the Italians are. They always eat a whole bunch of stuff. He just finished cutting weight. He's trying to put on some mass. He goes down to Olive Garden. He gets too many breadsticks in him. And he just goes into the next fight, all sluggish. And because of that crude food-based stereotyping of people from other countries, I'm going to go with Uda. I'm going to go with Uda by first round TKO, because Italians eat a lot of pasta and that makes them groggy, just from my empirical observations. Alright, well there you go. That is my UFC 202 picks. Should be a pretty interesting show. Not a whole lot going on in the prelims, but the main card, should have some pretty exciting boom going on. So that's it. McGregor, Diaz, Johnson, Teixeira, Story, Cerrone. I'll probably watch this one, and you will too. And sorry I just spoiled all the outcomes because I'm just that good picking MMA.